There have been a lot of games over the course of history that are regarded as one of the best. Games that receive some of the highest critical acclaim and are celebrated as such years after their initial release. Most of these games are from bigger, more notable developers, such as Konami, who made Silent Hill 2, Capcom, who made Devil May Cry 3, and Rareware, who made Banjo-Kazooie. However, there's one game that was released in 2010 and was made by a single developer that, to this day, can go down as one of these games. That game is VVVVVV. In this episode of Cartridges and Consoles, we'll dive into this small yet successful indie title and see how it's been able to survive generation over generation as one of the best video games ever made. VVVVVV, better known as the letter V 6 times or just simply V, is a puzzle platformer game developed by Terry Kavanagh and is available for PC, Mac, Linux, Steam, mobile phones, the Ouya, the PlayStation 4, the PlayStation Vita, the Nintendo 3DS, the Nintendo Switch, and even the Commodore 64. You take on the role of Captain Viridian, who must find all the members of his spaceship crew after a horrible accident separates you all throughout Dimension V. However, it's not as easy as it sounds, as you do not have the basic ability to jump. Instead, you traverse the dimension by switching the force of gravity. Whenever you're standing on a surface, you can change your direction of gravity, making Captain Viridian fall either upwards or downwards. There are a total of 5 crew members you must find within a massive open world to explore, but there are several traps, obstacles, and special mechanics you have to overcome across your journey. Thankfully, the game is riddled with checkpoints that allow you to respawn whenever you die, as well as hints to give you an idea on where in this expansive 400-worm world you can find your crew members. You also have additional collectibles you can collect known as shiny trinkets, which allow you to obtain music tracks in the jukebox, as well as a secret area if you collect all 20. There's even other modes, such as flip mode, which flips your screen upside down so you don't have to, no death mode, where you only have one life, and time trial mode, where you have to complete specific levels as quickly as possible without dying. There's even the option for local co-op mode on the Nintendo Switch version, and you can make and play custom maps with the PC, Mac, Linux, or Steam versions. Now, this game has a lot of things it does really well, with one being the level of simplicity. From the controls being as simple as move, flip gravity, and occasionally interact with objects or people, to the game being very straightforward with no real filler content, to even the graphics being very reminiscent of old 8-bit style games of the NES era, it's a very simple game to learn and get into. To add on to this simplicity, the game has no real life count unless you count the no death mode, meaning you can die over and over and over again, yet still be able to find success. Additionally, while the game definitely can be very hard at points, it is never truly unfair. Every section is beatable, and while some are more difficult than others, your deaths will never be because the game pulled a stupid, unpredictable move on you. This essence of fairness is emphasized by the abundance of checkpoints as well as a very fast respawn timer. While in most other games, when you lose a life, you have to wait for a bit to get the ability to move again, here the duration between a death and your next movement time is about a second, meaning you're more motivated to try and beat whatever section you're having trouble with. Plus, with every new checkpoint you activate, you're given a sense of relief knowing you made it through another hard section and could focus toward the next one. The semi-open world is also a really good part of the game. You're free to explore this vast dimension to your heart's content, and trying to find everything scattered throughout the map is an enjoyable experience in itself. Additionally, the mini dungeon-like stages within this world where you have to find your crewmates all offer a different mechanic, making them all stand out. From an auto-scrolling section to wires that reverse your direction of gravity, the game gives you several unique challenges that you are forced to overcome to save all your crew members. And almost all of these separate mechanics come into play in the final challenge, so they are far from a one-and-done thing you do once and forget about later. The game is also not that long to beat. Getting through the entire dimension and beating the game took me on average around 90 minutes. Obviously, I cannot speak for everyone, but the game is still pretty quick overall if you're willing to just beat the game. However, if that amount of gameplay isn't enough for you, the game has a vast amount of replayability with the collectible trinkets, the additional modes, the bonus post-game content, and in-game achievements. It's fun to take on the flip mode for a change, and for an extra hard challenge you can attempt the no death or time trial modes, but be warned that both of them are insanely difficult to the point where less than 20% of all players actually complete them successfully. Some of the achievements also take a lot of skill to try and obtain, so if you're the type of player to complete every game you play, trying to get through this one will be no walk in the park. There's also a lot of additional aspects in the game that help it stand out, such as some of the rooms having clever and/or funny names written by co-op developer Bennett Foddy, as well as the game's incredible chiptune soundtrack created by Magnus Solai Paulsen that adds on to the retro feel and is near impossible to not jam out to. As for negative aspects, there are very few things that really bring down the experience of the game. If anything, the controller support is a bit quirky, as the movement can be a bit too floaty and can cost you big in key situations if you're not fast enough to counter it, and there's a game-breaking bug when it comes to setting up your controls, but this could really just be a PC issue that I personally had trouble with. Plus, there is a heavy amount of flashing lights, and the game volume can come off as a tad bit too loud. However, both of those can be adjusted in the settings for players who are more sensitive to those kinds of things. Overall, The Letter V 6 Times is a phenomenal indie game that has truly stood the test of time and has become an instant classic. With a very interesting central mechanic, a level of challenge that doesn't truly feel unfair, and a lot of extra additions helping benefit the experience, it truly has the makings of one of the best video games ever made. It's no wonder how even today, over a decade since its initial release as a Flash game, is the game still being released for modern-day consoles, remaining as popular as ever. VVVVVV gets my rating of 10 out of 10 golden cartridges.